If I chose to develop one specific form of intelligence to impact my life for the better, which would it be? To me, the answer is extremely clear, and if you ask psychologists, they would have the same answer. The most important type of intelligence is metacognition, the awareness, understanding, and analysis of one's own thought processes. Now, psychologists would suggest this is the most important form of intelligence because it allows you to use all your other forms of intelligence at a higher capacity. That seems pretty straightforward, but let's take a bit of a deeper dive into why metacognition is the most important form of intelligence. So we all have perspectives and opinions, some rather insignificant, don't really make much of an impact on our lives, but some of our perspectives are very significant and do have a big impact on our lives. This is because we tend to behave and act in the world according to what those perspectives tell us. So if our perspectives and ways of thinking influence our actions and our behaviors, and our actions and behaviors dictate what our life looks like to a very large extent, then we can conclude that our perspectives and ways of thinking are extremely important because those directly lead to what our life looks like. For me, this is the biggest reason why metacognition is the most important form of intelligence. If the way that we perceive and see the world is fundamental to our actions, then being able to be aware of, analyze, and understand our perspectives and where they're even coming from is crucial to living a happy and authentic life. Developing your metacognition is going to be the difference between moving through life consciously, being able to evolve and change, and moving through life being rigid, unaware of ourselves, not knowing what's best for us, and unaware of how to navigate our own suffering. Now, one might argue, what if I want to make a big academic impact? What if I want to discover a cure to cancer? Surely my academic intelligence might be more important, wouldn't it? Nope, it's actually still your metacognition. If you're going to try to find a cure to cancer, you're going to need a lot of metacognitive skills to evaluate the many hurdles that you will surely run into. You're going to need to analyze your own thinking with immense scrutiny. Even the whole scientific process is metacognition in action itself. The scientific method involves acquiring knowledge through careful observation, rigorous skepticism, hypothesis testing, and experimental validation. So even amongst pursuits where other forms of intelligence are extremely important, the ability to apply metacognition is still going to be absolutely crucial. You might argue, what if my calling is in creative pursuits, art, poetry, music? Well, in order for one to discover that they have passions in creative pursuits, they require metacognition. There's no way around this. It's very fundamental. Okay, so now that we've established that metacognition is the most important form of intelligence, even in scenarios where it might not seem to be the case, let's discuss a few very practical ways in which metacognition is going to be very useful for you. So metacognition isn't only self-awareness, but it is a very large part of it. And self-awareness will allow your perspectives, and therefore your life itself, to grow and evolve past previously established thoughts and behaviors. An example of this in real life could be that you recognize this conflict that you keep having with your wife. You guys can't seem to stumble upon a solution because every time it arises, you start to get emotional and potentially even a little bit aggressive in your dialogue, which will impede your ability to communicate and think effectively. So being aware of this and having reflected on it, you begin to develop a meditation practice so that you can become more conscious of your emotions and increase your capacity to have difficult conversations without that being an obstacle. Perhaps you even communicate with your wife that you're aware this is something that needs work and you're working on it. That way she doesn't grow to become resentful of you and actually has some semblance of hope that a solution to this conflict can be found. Lo and behold, eventually you find a solution. Someone who is in the same situation who doesn't develop metacognition, doesn't have it, might just think that their wife is overreacting when she brings up these issues that she's having in the relationship or this conflict that she's having with you. And maybe even you justify your emotional outbursts and you just point your finger at her and you say that she's the problem. Well, that's probably a relationship that's going to end up in divorce. Another example that we already briefly talked about is that metacognition is required to know yourself, to know your preferences, your passions, and therefore required for you to pursue goals, ambitions, and careers that are authentic to you and that you would find genuinely fulfilling. Metacognition is also required for goal setting. The planning and organization, the self-evaluation, iterating that's involved with planning and achieving goals can't be done without metacognition and knowing how to best set yourself up for success so that you can achieve those goals. Speaking of goals, being able to think about your thinking, metacognition, is going to enable you to catch any self-deceptive tendencies where you let excuses hold you back from your full potential. So many of us are guilty of self-deception, and the more metacognition we have, the more you'll realize that your excuses are just a very convenient narrative that allow you to take the easy way out, when in fact, you are capable of so much more if you were just more aware of the fact that you are being self-deceptive. Sure, maybe you're a little bit tired. Doesn't mean you can't do that thing anyway. Sure, maybe it's going to be difficult. Doesn't mean you can't still achieve it, taking step by difficult step every single day. Whatever it may be, whatever ambition you may have, that self-deceptive voice in the back of your head is telling you isn't possible. That's a really big one, guys. Don't underestimate how valuable metacognition is in being able to catch your self-deceptive tendencies. So we've talked about how it's practical and in what situations it's going to be very valuable. Now let's talk about how you can actually develop it. Remember, guys, your thoughts and perspectives dictate your actions and behaviors, and those actions and behaviors dictate what your life looks like. So you need to be aware of your thoughts and perspectives. You need to get good at being able to observe them. And this is the first way that we can develop metacognition, is with a meditation practice. Being able to sit with your thoughts and be aware of them is a skill that meditation is going to yield you over time. You're going to get better at not being distracted by the content of the thoughts themselves, and you'll develop this ability to simply observe them, be able to ask yourself where they're coming from, what has shaped those perspectives, or if they're even grounded, or you're just kind of pulling them out of thin air, or they're stemming from some trauma response, some narrative that you've been fed that you can reflect on and recognize isn't true. So meditation, it's going to very much help you with this process, being able to watch your thoughts in an observer state so you can reflect on them. Even just 10 minutes of meditation per day is going to be much, much more effective than nothing. This next one is a little bit more of a paradigm shift and a perspective change that we need to make, an awareness that we need to try to incorporate into our day-to-day life. And this is intellectual humility. Lose the ego and be humble. Be aware of the fact that your perspectives might not always be true. So often people have an attachment to their perspectives simply because they identify with them. They will defend a perspective that they have despite new information being presented, simply because they identify with that perspective, to the point where when someone attacks the perspective or threatens its validity, it feels like a threat against a person themselves. Guys, it's not true. No one's threatening you when they attempt to question or poke holes in your perspective. Sometimes, and of course you have to use discernment in this process, but sometimes your perspectives are incorrect. Be open to that possibility. Be intellectually humble and not so attached to being right and attached to your perspectives. This is going to help you acquire more knowledge, more humility itself, and help your perspectives evolve when they should. Okay, the next way that we can develop metacognition, super, super valuable, easy to incorporate, a journaling practice. Actually taking the time to put a pen to paper and reflect on the things that are meaningful to you in your life is going to go a very long way in helping you develop that deeper self-awareness, the tendencies that you have, your preferences. And this is going to be super rewarding because, once again, your perspectives dictate your actions and behaviors, and those actions and behaviors dictate your life. So if we can be aware of our perspectives, if we can reflect on our thoughts and on our feelings, then metacognitively we are going to be in a very good spot. Okay, lastly, potentially most importantly, planning and auditing your life is one of the most effective ways to develop metacognition. Of course, this pairs very nicely with self-reflection. The more we come to know ourselves, the more we can plan and audit our lives with a degree of effectiveness that's going to make us very fulfilled. You want to have that self-awareness that's going to guide you towards setting proper goals, guiding you towards which habits you ought to build, which habits you ought to break. And being able to actually plan all that is going to allow your metacognition to manifest itself in an extremely practical way that will help your life flourish and allow you to live life to its fullest capacity. I personally perform a quarterly life audit where I sit down, set new goals, and reflect how my progress is going towards my already existing goals and perhaps make any adjustments if I deem necessary. A very easy way to begin this process of planning and life auditing is by using a free resource that I actually made. It's called the Life Audit Workbook. The link for it is down in the description below. I perform a life audit every quarter, so 4 times a year, and it has been super effective for helping me stay on track for my goals and being aware of what it is that I really want and how much I can do before I start to feel burnt out to actually achieve the goals that I have. So be sure to claim yours for free, link in the description down below. All right, guys, I hope after watching this video, you now value metacognition. You value being able to think about your thinking, be aware of your perspectives, where they're coming from, and intentionally develop this form of intelligence. Because if you do, your life will flourish. Everything gets better with more metacognition. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.